Welcome back to the next episode of Play Pals. And no, we're not disgusting. We don't sit in the same clothes every single day. We're recording this one immediately after the last one. One, because we don't want to let it be another 7 months before the next release, and two, because we're both available and we have this to talk about. So really, what we talked about it at the end of the last episode. So talk to me. What is this episode all about?
Souls likes.
Souls likes.
Souls likes. The best genre in gaming, probably right now. I don't know if ever, but right now.
Yeah, I think this is a topic that I wasn't prepared for, but best genre ever, I think you struggle because I think like the glory days of FPS back in like Gears of War, Call of Duty 4, etc. probably top it, and obviously like Halo 3, etc. However, I don't think it's controversial to say Souls-like is the best genre of gaming currently, and probably has been for the last 10 years.
Probably the last decade,
I'd be comfortable saying that, being someone that's fairly new to the genre in that sense, that I would fully stand by that statement and take it to the grave right now.
Yeah, it's maybe difficult because I guess like one developer and I guess one series in spirit has really like carried this to being literally one of the best. The fact that it's even part of the conversation from like mostly one developer is crazy, but I would say so. They've been even outside of FromSoft games, like exceptional quality games.
Yeah, I mean, FromSoft really did put the groundwork down to a sense of finding the magic recipe for success on how these games work in terms of difficulty, route planning, fight. I would even go as far as boss fights. Like, I feel like Souls-like games give you such a almost unique experience in boss fights that games before haven't really offered, and it does kind of put that like literal recipe for success of if you do X, Y, and Z, this game will be a success. And it's interesting that so many companies have, or maybe not so many companies, but so many developers have tried to replicate that success, and so many have failed. Like when it from an outsider perspective, it seems so simple of literally just have good fight mechanics, like have a basic lore, because like, I mean, I've played Dark Souls quite a few times now, and I couldn't even tell you the full lore, whether that's bad of me, but I'm a space gamer who just skips dialogue and runs through, and it's probably why I get lost in these worlds so often, because I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? And you're like, Veggie, they've just told you a second ago, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? But like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like the recipe is like passed down by grandma, and all you need to do is put 20 grams of thyme in the spaghetti, put 200 grams of tomato sauce in, and you're making it perfect, right? But it seems so many have failed. But also, there's a select few that have slipped through that success matter and done very well. But
I think one thing's for sure, like there's not many that are just in a world of obscurity and like they did okay. No one's really got an opinion on them. I think everyone's got opinions on every Souls-like that comes out.
Yeah, and do you think that's because FromSoft's games are so good that it puts the expectation of Souls-like games so high that actually it's more difficult to meet those expectations? And
I think so. I think if you're looking at like Dark Souls, original Dark Souls, or even Demon Souls, I suppose. I've not played the original, but I heard it's pretty similar to Dark Souls 1. If you put that as like the standard, that's a pretty high standard to meet, even now. Like, I don't know, nearly 15 years later. Like, that's a hard standard to hit.
But what I mean is, like, is that being the standard that we expect the problem, as in that? So we are playing these games with the expectations of they are going to meet the same standards that Demon Souls or DS1 Remastered or like Elden. I mean, no one's really going to hit the Elden Ring standard, but like it? That's because what we're expecting. So like when games come out, we're expecting them to hit the same standard of those.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so one of the topics that you wanted to talk about when we come into this, we're going to hit it straight off the bat. Easy mode for these games. People requesting easy mode for Souls-like games.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about it because my statement is more just like 4 words as opposed to any like detailed explanations.
Okay. Well, my thought on this is I'm someone that's not great at games. And when I first beat Dark Souls Remastered, the sense of fulfillment I had from doing that game and being like, look, all of these great gamers that I know that also struggle their way through that game, I've done what you did, and I have just as much right to have beaten it as you did, and all of those sort of feelings. If I'd clicked easy mode and someone had done it on expert mode, or if I'd done it on normal mode or tried it on expert mode and was like, this is way too difficult for me, then I wouldn't have had that sense of pride from doing it and figuring out how to actually beat this game, which everyone is finding difficult. I think if there's an easy mode, like, yeah, it might be a little bit more accessible to some people, but would there actually be an accomplishment there in beating the game? And that's what the whole genre relies on, that sense of accomplishment, doesn't it? So no, I really don't think an easy mode should be considered for any of these Souls-like games.
So you're of the opinion that this is a game that, so maybe this is going to be a wild stretch, so just bear with me because this comparison is incredibly wild. Like, you're going to be thinking in your head,
okay,
what is this comparison? So you load up Call of Duty, you're playing campaign, right? So I'm not talking about multiplayer, I'm talking about campaign. You load up, the first question it asks is, you want to play easy, medium, or insane, or I don't know. It's been a while since I played a COD campaign, but they have those difficulties. You load up Elden Ring, you select a character.
Yeah.
You're very much opposed to the first one, which is selecting a difficulty before you go into it, as then you just pick your character and the game is at a base level, everything's the same level of difficulty. It gradually gets more difficult. It has like scaling difficulty throughout the game as opposed to standard, right? Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think if you want to load up Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Lies of P, Lords of the Fallen, Temisia, Sekiro, and you want to pick a difficulty, get fucked. Go play a different game. That's not the whole purpose of these games, is to put you through difficult situations, to challenge you, to force you into situations where you're forced to get better as a player and learn your way through the fights, rather than going, I'm going to play this the easy way, it's on easy mode, I'm going to get this weapon that can carry me throughout the whole game. I mean, I'm kind of going to come back to this because that's how I play Dark Souls, but you get my point. Like, you're not then, like, the boss has like lesser damage outputs, and actually you only need to hit the boss like 3 times, and if he hits you, you're taking like 1 damage as opposed to like your whole level. 100% behind that. If you think that Dark Souls and Souls-like games should have that element, you're pandering to a very different niche. Like, the game is supposed to be difficult. You're not supposed to enjoy playing it until... No, but it's true though, right? You're not supposed to, especially your first playthroughs. It's not a game that you're like, oh, this is so enjoying to just play through the nuts and bolts of it. Like, yes, there's enjoyment factors of, I've just beat this boss. That gave me a really good sense of achievement and fulfillment. That's the enjoying part, not the part of going, I've just walked through the whole game in 5 hours. That's phenomenal fun. Like, it's not one of those type of games, and I don't think it should be.
No, there's a level of almost a level of like pride that you have to drop to play the game. Like, I'm someone that likes to think, what if I pick this up and I can do this guy first time? And I always sort of have that feeling when I play these games. I'm like, I walk into a boss room and I think, you know what if I take 0 hits here and I do him first time, and I'm gonna look like such a badass. And then I'm like, And then 2 minutes in, I'm like, I mean, lucky to make it to 2 minutes, but like 20 seconds in, I'm like humbled big time.
200 attempts later, still going.
Yeah, but I looked at I watched a video essay actually of someone that was talking about overcoming depression,
Mm-hmm.
and they did it with Dark Souls. And I was like, okay, that was the title. It was something like that, and I was like, interesting, okay. And essentially, it was about no matter what is thrown at you in these games, you have to look at yourself, look inwards, look around you at what is it trying, what is life, or in this context of the game trying to tell you, and overcome the obstacle that's in your way. And I was like, that is such a good point.
Yeah, I mean, let's just do a quick YouTube search, because I've seen these videos before. A quick search of Dark Souls Saved My Life will bring up so many videos with that exact title. That is true. Like, it's a game that teaches you to fight through adversity, that despite failing, it's not necessarily a failure. You can come back and try again. There's different ways to look at it. Like you said, you look inward of, okay, what am I doing wrong, as opposed to, oh, this is too difficult, I can't do it. There's a way around things, and you can beat it if you try your best or try different solutions for that problem, right?
Yeah, and look, we're both people from, like, I don't want to say like sport backgrounds, because we're not like, we've never been athletes.
What do you mean? Have you seen my body?
On a professional level. No, but I think, I don't know about you. I mean, I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and I always enjoyed that element of challenge that came with them, and having to sort of develop to get to sort of your peak, and whether that peak's here or here, mine's down here, but wherever your peak is, it's the same with the Souls games. Like, you're trying to get to your peak. Some days you come on and you feel it, and you're like, I am performing better, my reflexes are better, my critical thinking's better, and then some days you come on and you're like, right, today I'm well off form. And it's like having to try and stay at that sort of the apex of your like ability in these games. It's like vital, and I love that about them.
Yeah, I'd agree. So let's just before we go into like our top threes, etc., let's talk about the games that we've been playing. You've been playing Elden Ring?
Been playing Elden Ring. Been loving Elden Ring. My first run through, I think I'm probably at the from what I understand from what people are saying, I'm about probably like a third of the way through.
Okay.
I've got a big organized battle, like it's I don't want to spoil anything for you, but
I mean, I watch your streams.
It's like
is it Radahn you're fighting? Am I right? Okay.
Radahn, yeah. So there's like it's like an arena, a pre-scheduled battle against Radahn. So that's really cool. That's been really cool. And right now I'm at that phase of there's nothing I can do to overcome this, but I know that in maybe 3 more hours of playtime, maybe an hour if I'm lucky, I might have figured it out by then. But yeah, the game's been incredible, honestly.
How are you enjoying that kind of open world element of? So I'm yet to take on Elden Ring, so it's something I'm kind of yet to experience, and I realise that's probably dumb of someone to say that talks about how much they love the Soul-like genre, but with that open world element where you're not forced down a certain like path, and I mean, yes, Dark Souls Remastered has like certain paths that you can take to like skip certain elements, but not to the same extent Elden Ring does, if you can literally go and clear so many. How are you enjoying that as opposed to the difference of before?
So for me, Dark Souls 1 is like the perfect map design, because it's the route that the game takes you on almost familiarizes yourself, and it feels like now if I jump on that game, like it kind of feels like a second home, or like like somewhere I've been on holiday 100 times or
A
something
really
like
bad holiday.
that. A really bad holiday, really bad. But it's all familiar to me, and I know sort of everything sort of links together, and that's in terms of level design incredible. Elden Ring, they can't do that because of the sheer size of it. If you were going to say like Dark Souls is like a, I don't know, like a caravan park, then Elden Ring's a country.
Okay. Yep.
So you might get sort of know your bearings, like, oh, right now I'm in Madrid, right now I'm in wherever. You can get really lost, and I felt that early on. I felt very lost. I think the more there was like a point, I think probably around the second main story boss, it just clicked for me, and I started feeling like, okay, now I'm confident that I can jump back here, and when I come back here, I'm gonna know what I'm doing. I can jump right back to the start, do some stuff at the start, pick up some things that I may have missed. I'm confident that I can take out any little NPCs that are around, start looking for dungeons and things. I think you've got to be very, like, it's sort of like a survival game. You've got to be like exploring and looking for things rather than like feeling like in a linear way. I'm going from here to here to here to here. This links back to this. It's not like that. But yeah, I mean, you can really get lost with it.
Okay. It's something that I'm kind of yet to experience. I mean, so for me, what have I been playing? I've been playing. I've completed Lords of the Fallen, which is one that was on my list for a little bit after Liza P. Which, to be honest, like, so when I first picked the game up, I kind of struggled to get into it too much. I felt like the fact that there was two different worlds to navigate was a little bit not too complex, but it was more complex than maybe what I was expecting, and added elements of like it just seemed unnecessary at points. But the more that I played through it, the more that I enjoyed it, and the more that I learned about different builds. And like, it's the first Souls-like where I've used magic in a sense, and I actually really enjoyed using it. Like, you've got two different types of magic. You've got, I think it's Radiance and Inferno, and like one's like a Hellfire and one's like God's prayers, which is quite interesting. But I still thought it done a very good job. Like, some of the boss battles were actually really well designed. The layers on some of them were really sick. I think like there was lacking of stages. Like, from memory, there was maybe a handful of bosses that were 2-stage bosses. Like, there were majoritively 1 stages. However, I mean, it's going to be minimal in comparison to Elden Ring, but the volume of bosses that you fight is quite high for the space that you pass through. Is probably the better, like, the boss density, if that makes sense. So, like, you come across more bosses than you would in any other game that I've played so far. Like, literally, like, you can just defeat one boss and think, oh, fantastic, I'm on my way round to like the next vestige or whatever, and then all of a sudden you've walked into an arena where you're fighting another boss that's 10 times as hard.
Right, yeah.
And like, you don't always get that preparation time to do it. I feel like the game's been out long enough that I can. The final boss that I fought was a huge letdown. However, if you go 3 bosses before that, you fight one of the main bosses that kind of follows you throughout the whole campaign. And then the second you fight that boss, you can go through to a room if you've done a certain storyline that you're then fighting another boss. And then, so that's literally like 10 steps after you've just done one boss fight. You finish that boss, so now you're 2 boss fights down, and then you walk another 20 steps and you're fighting another boss. Like, yes, this is endgame, but at the same time, all 3 of them have their own different challenges. Like, one's in a huge arena, but has like a wicked amount of different types of attacks that you have to kind of get used to. The next one you're in, well, the next 2 actually, you're kind of in what's the boss in Dark Souls Remastered? Taurus Demon. No, not the Capra Demon. Sorry, Capra Demon type environment where you're like in a really tight environment and you can't actually move around too much. None of them have dogs, so you don't need to worry about that. But like you're in like a really tight enclosed environment where you can't actually like fight too much. Like you're limited to where you can go. But yeah, it's very dense in terms of the volume of bosses. I think the boss designs are all very strong. The way they fight is all unique to each one, so they're not like repetitive in that type of sense. Where like Liza P and other Souls like that we've spoken about before, if you come across like the human bosses that are like demi bosses, they all fight in the exact same way. Whereas the structure of these bosses all have their own unique takes and unique abilities that are specific to them and their kind of demographic of area.
I mean, I'm interested to try it out. I think I like the idea of having a very dense, like boss dense map, because sometimes the boss runs it can feel quite unsatisfying when you're running. You know, you obviously die a lot in these games, and you've got to run through a whole area again, and sometimes it can be a little tricky getting back there, and sometimes it's not even like tricky by design. Sometimes it's a bit like there's just a really long hallway. I think it's pretty rare that when we do a boss run, it's like you're not getting attacked on your way back to the boss. It's like it is just a long time, a lot of nothing. That's something that I don't necessarily like, but I do quite like the idea of having like quite a dense boss map. So I think it's something that maybe it would be worth me trying.
Yeah,
out.
I mean, I'd recommend it. I don't think it's not the echelon of Souls-like games, right? I'm not going to stand here and put that on a pedestal. I'm not going to go as far as when I said Liza P was Game of the Year. I'm not going to go that far. I'm in my cage. I've backed down a little bit. I'm a little bit more settled tonight. But I still think it hasn't received as much plaudit as it should have, if that makes sense. I think the game deserved a lot more recognition for what it's done and what it's tried to do than it probably has received. Like there's so many different builds that you can do that it's crazy on the volume that you can actually do things with. You're not limited to fighting in a certain style. Hold on. Sorry, the missus just decided to walk into the room mid-conversation and be like, I didn't realise you were on camera. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so I think it deserves a lot more plus sides than what it's been given. The other game that I'm going to talk about that me and you aren't going to sit down and talk Souls-like apart from and then not discuss Dark Souls Remastered, right? This is where 100%. Both of our addictions to this category came down. And it's also where I've been fully encapsulated again and fully frustrated and fully aggravated and so mentally destroyed by trying to play this game without dying. Like, it's such a difficult challenge, but it comes back to that point that you brought up about difficulties. Like, if there was a difficulty mode in this where you could put it on easy and run the game without dying, it wouldn't have that same thrill or same attraction to what it would be before, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I'd equate that as an achievement, just and you could have it like as a baseline achievement as being like a mortal in Valorant or global elite in CS:GO. It's like, because everyone's got the same base layer to start from, you basically, if you did it without dying, then because everyone's experienced the same game, everyone that's played the game has experienced the same game, then the achievement is that high. It would be at the top of, Dark Souls players. I mean, there's people.
Without taking hits and within letting everyone and such. We're not talking about
with like a joystick.
You maybe pushed that a little bit too far.
With a steering wheel, but no. But I mean, like there's people that are immortal that aren't that great.
Valid.
People get a mortal pistol only. It's still. But I think it puts you in that because everyone's got the same experience or they're up against the same odds, it puts you in that top category then.
Okay, fair enough. I thought, yeah.
If there was a difficulty mode, then it gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah, because then you're talking about doing it on the hardest difficulty and such. But I think people kind of do naturally themselves by having like no hit runs. I mean, we talk about how hard deathlesses are, but no hit runs are just something like completely on their own boundaries. Like the people that can pull off no hit runs are just mental.
If you hadn't played the game, if you've played the game, then you just know what you're up against. I guess if there was a difficulty slider, people wouldn't know what what an achievement it would be to do it without getting hit. That's just the way I see it. Like, I could complete a game on easy without dying.
Yeah, okay.
And if someone else did it on hard, I wouldn't necessarily be like, I'd be like, I beat it without dying as well. It would diminish that achievement a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think it's something that, like, after playing the game X amount of times, it's always seemed like appealing to me to try, because it's pushing my skill level at least. Like, I'm similar to yourself in terms of I'm not great at video games, right? I'm just not. I'm almost 30 years old. I'm not. My body is not designed to be like insane reactions and timing of everything to be able to capture this. And also, I'm slightly dumb in the aspect of I don't fully learn boss maneuvers and the peak time to kind of capitalize on when to strike and sort of things like that, which is probably something I need to do if I want to actually finally do the game without dying. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's something that you have to do, and that's probably more where the skill comes through. And then if you factor in the no hits of you have to know every single enemy's attacks, how to not get hit by them, where the frames are that you can jump through, is just on a completely different level. But once again, that's where these Souls-like games strive to allow people, like, there's so limited ways to play the game in a sense, but then people have to be so innovative in terms of showing above and beyond that there's different ways above what was already intended for them.
Yeah. I think I think Dark Souls 1 is probably the most definitive. Like I said at the start, like, it is the baseline. It is so good. It set the standard for an entire genre that is almost impossible to hit. Like, Lords of the Fallen probably doesn't quite hit it. And that's probably why it's also not had the praise that you say it most likely deserves. I'd say it from what I've seen and what I've heard, it probably would have been up there with some of the better games of the year. Like, but because it hasn't necessarily reached Dark Souls Remastered or Dark Souls 1's standards, it's probably going to be a little bit forgotten.
Yeah, Lords of the Forgotten Gamers is probably very...
That sounds a good title.
But no, I mean, I think it does come back down to that. Like, Liza P seems to have done significantly better than it in terms of, like, sustained viewerships, and I mean, I'm pretty sure if Lords of the Fallen has, I'm pretty sure, next to no, like, 219 viewers on Twitch at the minute. And yes, viewers on Twitch isn't like how you judge a successful game, but it gives you like a good idea of the audience that's still watching it. And Liza B has 3.7k viewers. I mean, that's still pretty low, to be honest, but like it's a significant amount higher than what Liza P had, Lords of Fallen had. And then you compare it to Dark Souls Remastered, which is like 12 years old, maybe longer than that now. And I mean, it only has 555 viewers, so it's not crazy. However, that is like one of the oldest games in the franchise, whereas Elden Ring has 11.6k viewers. So,
and to be honest, I think from my understanding, Dark Souls 3 is probably the more the one people replay the most.
Okay, I mean, it's got 1.8k viewers, 2.9 million followers.
I think I think probably just because it's like graphically pretty good, it revisits a lot of that. Well, from what I understand, it revisits a lot of that, a lot of stuff from Dark Souls 1 as well. But yeah, I mean, like the original franchise, it's quite old now, and it's still holding that relevance today. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Most of the people on Twitch are probably on Elden Ring as well, that are into the FromSoft games. So, not a lot of surprise, to be honest, that they're still pulling the numbers that brand new games are.
And I mean, it has the DLC that's set to come soon enough, which will basically like reignite all the hype that it had when it first came out, and it will see that. I mean, you can guarantee that the player base will at least double from what it's at just now into to where it's at. Like, I don't think it will hit like the peak numbers that it had, which was just under a million. Sorry, but I still think it will have a very strong uplift in players when that comes.
Maybe, yeah. I think it'll definitely have a big uplift. It depends how big the DLC is. I think some people are expecting like almost a whole new game out of it.
I'd be surprised.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would. Based on historically, they tend to just have some new areas and a couple of new bosses.
Yep.
But you know, they are always pulling out surprises. So
we'll have to.
You never know.
To wait and see. Okay, so we were going to do top 3 best and worst, but I think I might add an extra spin on it, which is going to put you
go
on a surprise back foot. I think we both pick like 3, but you know that way where it's like you go, then I go, then you go, then and like whoever has the best list wins. I think that's where we go for, which I might struggle with because I've not played Elden Ring, and that's where a lot of the best bosses are going to be.
Look, maybe we stick it on Dark Souls 1.
Okay, just Dark Souls 1 bosses. Okay, yep, I'm fine with that. Let me get the list up of Dark Souls bosses, so I don't end up forgetting some of them.
You know what's criminal? I've not played the DLC.
Me neither. That's what's absolutely worst, because they have one of the best bosses in the entire series in the DLC.
Yeah, apparently.
And I've completed Dark Souls. I mean, I've not completed it that many times in perspective, but like I've played through quite an aspect of it, like probably a lot of times. But I've just never ventured into the DLC, which is crazy. Okay, so, but before we do that, right? I just want to discuss what your opinion of the worst boss in the game is. And there's a couple that you can, like, there's a couple that I expect you to pick. I think there's only one correct answer. However, I could give you like 2 or 3 depending on how you look at it. What is your worst boss in Dark Souls?
Look, I'm going to be... I don't want to be super boring and say Ceaseless Discharge.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Even though for me, like, it's not even a boss.
It's just a race.
Yeah, so I mean, I might just disqualify that one.
I'm fine with disqualifying it, yeah.
I'd say, probably Pinwheel.
It has to be, right? It's just such a bad boss. Like, everything about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I don't understand. There's a couple of things, really. Why they never put a bonfire outside of it? Because it's got one of the most frustrating boss runs ever.
I mean, there's a bonfire pretty close to it, but actually, no, there's not.
It is pretty close.
You have to jump down quite a bit, or
and you take a bit of fall damage, and there's the wheels that are spinning at you, and it can get a little bit like tedious to do that boss run. Not that you have to do it, really. To be fair, do you even have to do the boss run?
You do to get to Nito. No. You have to go through Pinwheel to get into the.
Yeah, but I mean, do you have to do the boss run again?
Probably not. You shouldn't. Yeah, you're correct. I think you shouldn't have to do it over and over again, unless you're me trying to do it deathless. And then, I
don't think I've ever died in Pinwheel, but I've died on the boss run.
Yeah, that's correct. That's probably. I think I've maybe died once just because I've been hit with like the flame attack, and I'm doing it at like literally the second the game loads up. But the fact that you can easily start the game and kill Pinwheel within 5 minutes without leveling up, you could do it without. I know a summon, whatever his name is, the little drop to come and help me. You could easily do it without his help if you wanted to. Like if you were really trying, not even really trying, if you just wanted to in general, you could do it without a shadow of a doubt. So that's the one I had in mind. Pinwheel is by far the worst boss in Dark Souls.
Yeah, I'd say so. Other than Ceaseless Discharge.
Yeah, but let's just not include that one. Let's just
anything,
that.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that was the worst. I wanted to top it off to make it a nice round 3.
No, that's just a standard. We're gonna have a list of 3 against each other. So this is for the best bosses or the bosses that you would want on your side. So let's say we're fighting each other. You're picking 3 bosses and I'm picking 3 bosses one at a time. So I'll let you go first. You can have the first pick, and if you pick the one I'm thinking of first, I'm going to fight you.
Okay, my number 1. So this is like a draft?
Yes, it's a draft, exactly. That's the word. Yeah,
all right, cool. All right. Oh, that's tough. My number 1 is going to be the Capra.
Okay, fine. My number 1 is going to be the Chaos Witch Quelaag, because you know what every army needs when you're headed into war is some eye candy that can do some serious damage, right? I'm full scale distracting you. You're like that, booba. Like every male gamer that plays through Dark Souls, I have got you captured. Chaos Witch Quelaag can do some serious damage, and she's on my side.
Nah, I think Capra Demon easy takes it. I don't think Capra Demon's interested.
Right, who's your number 2?
Oh, number 2. In a brawl, who do I want? I think I'm going to go ONS. Or can I only take one of ONS?
Oh, that's...
Let's separate ONS.
I think we separate them as well. So what one are you taking?
Okay. I'm actually going to completely disregard them.
Okay.
As separate entities. I'm going to go for Nito.
For Nito, okay. I'm taking Ornstein. I'm so glad that you skipped them both, because Ornstein is a motherfucker, and he's going to cause you some little problems, I think.
He has a few weaknesses, right? Like he does stop sometimes, and I think if you got like a heavy blow on him, if you had someone like Capra Demon double-handing those blades, I think Capra Demon would take.
Does the Capra Demon come with the dogs as well? He has to, right?
Yeah, he has to.
Yeah, that's fair. It could cause me some problems.
I think that causes some issues. Nito's there as a tank, so while I think that in a one-on-one fight, I think Ornstein would take
easily,
Nito. Yeah. But okay. So you've got...
I've got Quelaag and Ornstein.
Quelaag and Ornstein, okay. Good choices.
I think so.
I think for my number 3, this is a really difficult one. I'm thinking of this as a squad right now. So.
Yeah, you're putting together the best 3 possible that could... Yeah, you're trying to. I mean, mine's is already better in my opinion, but still.
I'm going to go for Seath.
The Seath Scaleless. Okay.
Do I?
Are you locking it in?
No, I'm switching up. I'm going for Bell Gargoyles.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Is that 1 or 2? Do I get 1 or 2 of them?
Because they're so easy, I'll give you both of them, because I think they're that harmless that you might as well have picked. You might as well have picked up the Capra Demon's dogs. I think they're that harmless. And in the grand scheme of things here, I think that is probably a bad selection. But you've locked it in. No. I'm taking Gwyn. I don't know how he's made it to number 3 in the list, but I'm taking Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, the final boss in the storyline. Is fitting right into my team with his fire attacks, with his... Yes, you're just going to say, oh, you can just parry him away. But
they can't parry
Nito's not parrying. Nito's not going to be able to parry. Your Capra Demon that's got 2 swords in his hands ain't parrying. I'm telling you, he is the Lord of Dark Souls 1 for the purpose of he is the strongest boss in the game.
So... my thought with my squad is I've got my tank, I've got my agile Capra Demon, and I've got my gargoyles up in the sky. So I'm taking you in different ways there. I feel like you've got 2 fast. You're almost going with a little bit of a like Gengen press there. You've got 2 fast attackers who are going to be just constantly piling on pressure. I'm preferring to sit back, have a bit of strategy about it.
Okay.
Have my tank take some damage, have the Capra Demon come in and swing at your guys, have the gargoyles swinging down, using the fire, using their axes. I don't know. I think it's a closer fight than
I'm certain I've won this easy. But you're going to have to let us know whether you're watching on YouTube. Let us know in the comments. If you're watching this on a TikTok clip, let us know in the comments. If you're listening in on Spotify, this will be up as the poll of who had the better squad. Let us know. And just for like answer purposes, the only correct answer here is Veggie. Like, I'm not hearing anything else.
Look, I do wish I went for Gwyn instead of Capra Demon, and maybe Smau instead of Nito to do those jobs. But I'm still pretty confident.
Okay, I mean, I think you're wrong, but we'll we'll certainly allow it.
Maybe I should have gone for Iron Golem because he just would throw them all off the
if you want to talk about tank people, Iron Golem is probably the right choice instead of Nito, considering.
Yeah, but, maybe.
Because he seems to take a whole load of damage.
It's just a little slow.
Exactly. I mean, he's...
Which is your favorite fight?
Favorite fight? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I think this is going to be really boring, but I like fighting ONS because I feel like you're just constantly on edge. Just like, there's ways to kind of cheese Smo so that he just like runs into the barriers. But like, while you're kind of focusing on that, you need to worry about Ornstein's like leaping attacks that just seem to like come out of nowhere. Like he's at one side of the room, and then the next thing, like you just see him in your face with his spear, like just slamming into you. But beside that, I mean, I'm just like, I can't give any other answer rather than ONS.
No, I think that's a fair one. I've got a controversial one.
Okay.
It's the Iron Golem.
Why? Just because of how you can cheese it?
No, I've never cheesed it. I think he has a few interesting movesets, but they're all quite easy to counter. I love the setting.
Okay.
You're like quite high up on a wall, and there is like obviously quite a, you just sort of batter him until he falls. But I kind of like that. It feels like the most toe-to-toe fight you can have on there.
Okay.
And I do think he can be fairly difficult to beat, but he's not really like, I wouldn't say he was amongst the most difficult, but in terms of the setting and everything, I just really like that fight.
Fair. I mean, you're right in saying that it's a kind of out there answer. It's not one that I would have thought would have been in my top 3 boss fights, but
it's just one that I really look forward to when I play through it, and I get to that point in the game, and I think it's almost like while you're still having the enjoyment of a boss fight, you can have that sort of, and it's almost like hitting that nice point in a flight way up in the air, and you look out the window and you've got a nice view over a country. You've got like a bit of sea, and you're like, and you're still maybe a bit nervous because you're on a plane,
and the engine's on fire,
and it's not like being at the end. Yeah, it's not like being at the end, but yeah, I like it. I think it's a great midpoint boss.
Fair enough. I mean, both bosses that we picked there are like literally right beside each other in terms of aspects of where they are in the game. I think both, like you say, kind of mark that midpoint of storyline of right, you've now completed the tutorial. Let's take you to like the next level of where the bosses go, which obviously take you onto the lords. But yeah, I mean, listen, we came on to talk about the Souls-like genre. We've ended up just waffling about Dark Souls, but this is where we come back to. Like, obviously, you've still to complete Elden Ring. I've still to pick it up. We have Bloodborne on the agenda to play through. There's DS2 and DS3 for us both to hit up. Not even mentioning Sekiro. And I think we're both positive on saying that when we play Sekiro, we're going to be doing it properly and not taking the easy way around to fight a certain boss running around in a circle for 7 hours. I think that's a pathetic way to play the game.
Yeah, 100%.
So I would say like this is now talked about Souls-like, and we'll never talk about Souls-like again on a podcast, but that's just not going to be the case, especially when both of us are involved.
No.
This is probably going to be a topic that we certainly come back to on several different occasions. So if you are a Souls-like fan, we will be talking about these games a whole lot more often, especially as more of them release and more indie companies start to release more of them. I mean, like I think I've still got like 7 different ones to play through if I was to look at.
Yeah, I think one that we've not even mentioned that's on my agenda is Remnant.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And Remnant 2. So I'm going to be jumping into them soon, and I think I'll definitely be bringing them in to present to you.
I mean, I've heard good things about them, so I'll look forward to where that comes on. They're supposed to be really good and enjoyable, and they do add that different aspect of gunplay, don't they? But we will talk about that on another day. We won't go too much longer on that. But listen, it's the time to plug ourselves. Why? Do you want to tell people once again where they can find you?
Why on YouTube? Instead of me spelling it out 2 weeks in a row, go to the Play Pals pod at Play Pals Pod, and I'm in there on Twitter or probably on YouTube.
Hopefully on YouTube. You can find us, but it's something we actually never talk about is our the socials for the actual podcast. No. You can find us on Twitter, which is at PlayPals Show. So if you go onto there, you've messed that one up. You'll certainly be able to find us on Twitter. We don't post, but we will be posting more often now that we're starting to get back into the groove of recording things. We are on YouTube, which is just PlayPals on YouTube. Obviously, we're on Spotify, which is potentially where you're listening. Or you're listening to us on YouTube, who knows? So it's PlayPals on all these socials, or if you're looking for us on Twitter, it is at PlayPals Show. I'm Veggie Hot Dog. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Threads, maybe. I doubt it. But I mean, I should say X, not Twitter, sorry. But I'm on there under Veggie Hot Dog. This has been the Souls-like episode, so thank you very much for listening, and we will see you down the road.